Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on the future of e-invoicing in the Middle East. We are going to wait 2 or 3 minutes for some more attendees to join, and then we'll get started. If you can please bear with us. Thank you. All right. Hello again, everyone. Thank you again for joining our webinar on the future of e-invoicing in the Middle East. I think we will get started. We still have some people joining, but that's not a problem. First of all, some introductions. My name is Julian Lapp. I'm the head of regulatory affairs at Easy, VAT IT company, and now within our VAT IT e-invoicing division. I've joined today by Carmen Muir. She's our regulatory associate here, one of our regulatory associates that's focused on the Middle East as well. Just some housekeeping before we begin. Please make use of our questions panel. The questions will be monitored during the entire session and after the session as well. We would love to provide some written responses to those during the session if possible, but we will also email out some written responses to you after the event. The event will also be recorded, and a recording will be sent out to everyone as well. So no need to take lots of screenshots or anything like that. All right. So we are here today to talk about e-invoicing in the Middle East, maybe a bit more of a focus on the GCC specifically. We've seen quite a large uptick in the last couple of years with e-invoicing mandates coming into force in the region. This is kind of following the example that's been seen throughout LATAM and now picking up in the APAC and EU regions as well. Generally in an attempt to close VAT gaps in the countries that do have VAT, and we'll get onto that in a bit later on today. We are seeing a couple of models that have emerged in the Middle East, generally following two kind of principles. One is a few clearance models that have come up, where obviously invoices need to be sent to tax officers for clearance prior to being sent to the final recipients. And then quite a few PEPL 5-corner models starting to emerge as well, which are more real-time reporting models where invoices will be reported to the tax office at the same time as being sent to the recipients. We'll go into a bit more detail on those specifically shortly. Most of the regions that have introduced a mandate have introduced phased mandates where certain thresholds will apply before companies will be seen in scope, which has sort of eased the transition into the mandates. And a lot of the countries have obviously introduced significant penalties for non-compliance, including criminal sanctions for some of the specific countries as well. But not to worry, we are here to assist you with the compliance requirements and hopefully to assist you with your e-invoicing needs in future as well. We'll be looking at a few of the countries in detail, and the first of those will be the UAE, which I'm going to hand over to Carmen to speak through.
Thanks so much, Julian. I think just to dive straight into the UAE, the Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with the Federal Tax Authority, has announced a phased rollout, and the phased rollout will begin on the 31st of July 2026. So we will have a better look at this timeline and discuss it in the next few slides. But just for now, it's important to understand the scope of the mandate. So in respect of the UAE, which is a little bit different to other countries, they have clarified that the mandate actually is applicable to all businesses that are actually conducting business within the UAE. So businesses that are conducting the business in the UAE have to have a TIN number. And that TIN number is basically what is considered in respect of whether they need to e-invoice or not. So when we look at the scope, it's also B2B and B2G transactions. And then in respect of the model, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, but it is the Pebble 5-corner model.
Sorry, there we go, off mute again. Just a quick overview of the Pebble 5-corner model, because we will see this with some of the other countries in the UAE and globally as well. It is starting to become a more emerging model for e-invoicing. Essentially, in this model, every party that requires the e-invoice data will have a service provider. So you'll see we've split out the supplier. That is generally seen as corner number 1. We then have their ASP in the UAE, but in general, it will be a Pebble certified access point, being their corner 2 provider. That has the responsibility to, first of all, report the invoice to the tax authority, as well as send it to the buyer's service provider, being corner 3. The tax authority itself will also have a Pebble certified access point that will be the recipient of that e-invoicing data that is being reported, or in some circumstances like the UAE and some of the other countries, a tax data document, which is a subset of the invoice data that needs to be submitted to the tax authority. Lastly, corner 3, which is the buyer's certified provider, needs to send that e-invoice data to the tax office as well in some cases. So you have dual reporting of your invoice data, and they'll obviously provide that data to their client, being the end customer, the buyer in the transaction. In this kind of model, apologies, my microphone might not have worked. Please let us know if you are having trouble hearing very quickly. Okay. So in this, we have seen this model becoming more prevalent. One of the main reasons is that it is also compliant with the future VIDA requirements, in that it is not a clearance model. Invoices do not need to go through to the tax office first before being sent to the final provider, and it allows that invoice reporting to happen to the tax authority. All right, back to you, Carmen, for the remainder of the UAE.
Thanks, Julian. I think it's very important to look at the requirements in order to be an accredited service provider in the UAE, and more specifically, how the UAE has, considered the taxpayers in relation to this. So in respect of choosing an accredited service provider, the UAE has actually published a bit of a guide to help taxpayers choose their service provider. And not to get into too much detail, but this guide does touch on product ownership. So you'll see that we've put here that we have submitted our application to become an accredited service provider, and should reflect on the list of service providers quite soon. I think just moving on here, in respect of the timeline, it links to accredited service providers just because there are mandatory dates that taxpayers have to comply with in respect of choosing a service provider. This is unlike quite a lot of other regions. So just to have a brief overview of this, On the 31st of July 2026, this is when the Taxpayer Working Group pilot begins. So that is the one part of that deadline. But the other part of the deadline is just that large and major companies, which is a revenue over 50 million AED, must appoint their ASP by the 31st of July 2026. Moving on from there, by the 1st of January 2027, this is the go live date for the large and major companies that have already chosen their service providers months before that. And then in respect of the 31st of March, we basically know that small and medium enterprises, which they have a revenue with under 50 million, must appoint their ASP. And the 1st of July, that's the go live for them. And then as well as on the 1st of October 2027, it is the go live for government entities. This is just a visual of that timeline. This is actually from the Ministry of Finance's website. And yeah, it's just a good thing to have, especially to consider if you have to comply or not. I won't get into too much detail here, but in the UAE, the penalties are quite intense for non-compliance. And this was published in the Cabinet Decision number 106 of 2025. So these monetary penalties should really, really make businesses consider signing their ASPs in time, as well as, complying, because these penalties are really, really strict. And I think I'm going to hand over back to Julian just to explain how we can help minimize any penalties.
Perfect, thanks, Carmen. So as stated, we are in the process of our accreditation application for the UAE. We will be compliant with all of the requirements for accreditation, or we are compliant with all the requirements for accreditation. We just need to complete basically some of the tests, which is using the UAE pint format. We are already a PEPL certified access point, so we know that we can obviously complete the process and the technical requirements as needed. And we will be ready to go during the pilot phase, before the pilot phase indeed as well, and able to support companies in the UAE from the get-go to avoid incurring any penalties. While we're talking about pilot phases for 2026, I'm going to skip right over to Oman as well. I see we've already received some questions in the chat on this. Oman is also planning to introduce an e-invoicing mandate with a pilot phase beginning in August this year. It is following a very, very similar model and general approach to e-invoicing as the UAE. So they are looking at a PEPL 5-corner model as well, and a very similar accreditation process, which is, as I think Carmen alluded to, quite a lot more intense than most other countries in terms of what the accredited providers need to show and be in compliance with. So we are also actively working to ensure that we are certified on time for Oman. Just going quickly to the scope. To begin with, it will be B2B e-invoicing only for at least the pilot period and the initial phases. B2G is going to be introduced later in 2027, and they are gearing up and have plans to introduce a requirement for B2C e-reporting in a future unannounced date as well. Onto the timelines, as we've discussed, the pilot phase is starting on the 1st of August this year. Notifications have already been sent out to the 100 large taxpayers or are in the process of being sent out. I know that some of our clients have already received these notifications. Again, our plan and with our accreditation process actually already our preparations already being underway, we will be compliant by the 1st of August. Again, we are already a PEPL access point, so it makes our lives quite a lot easier. We are just awaiting, obviously, the release of the technical specifications for Oman. They haven't released any details yet if they are going to do their own e-invoicing format. And we are waiting for the accreditation process to be opened. From next year, the pilot phase will end and the remaining taxpayers will be required to comply from the 1st of February 2027. Finally, in August next year, so a year after the pilot starts, they will rope in all remaining taxpayers. And then lastly, as I indicated, sorry, it's actually 2028, B2G will be added to the scope from the 1st of February 2028. Just a note that we haven't received, I believe, the final penalties that will be applicable in Oman, but the general penalties in Oman for tax compliance can include criminal sanctions. So again, it is one of those countries where we do need to make sure we are as compliant as possible to ensure none of these sanctions are hit. Handing back over to Carmen for Jordan.
Thanks, Julian. Just a quick overview of Jordan. Definitely not as detailed as UAE and Oman, but Jordan has been fully mandated since April 2025, and this was done by the ISTD in collaboration with the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship. It was introduced in phases since 2022. So in respect of the developments that have happened since April 2025, we know that all B2G, B2B, and B2C transactions are all in scope, and it applies to all VAT registered businesses unless they are specifically exempt. In respect of the model, they use a direct, unregulated clearance model, which is of course different to the UAE and to Oman, and the platform is called Joe Futura. In respect of penalties, it is about 500 Jordanian dinar per violation. So we want to just, motivate here that in respect of these penalties, they add up fast. And Easy does actually have a fully compliant solution for Jordan's mandatory regime. We've actually also got Arabic translations. So of course, in respect of the mandate, we know that this is mandatory. I'm handing it back over to Julian now.
Thanks, Carmen. All right, then looking at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's mandate has been in force for some time. They started with the first phase of their mandate in 2021, and the second phase, I believe, started in 2023. They've introduced, I'll say, a phased mandate, but in reality, it is many, many, many different waves of their mandate and their thresholds coming into force. We currently, I believe, on wave 23, yes, no, wave 23 is about to start in March. So really quite a lot of phases that have been introduced and slowly bringing the revenue threshold down to include more taxpayers in their scope. In this sense, it has been quite a nice transition for taxpayers, and there has been a lot of good compliance thus far from taxpayers, unlike we've seen in a couple of other countries where more big bang approaches have been used. The scope for the e-invoicing in Saudi Arabia covers all transaction types. That's B2B, B2G, and B2C reporting as well. And the current wave, wave 22, covers or requires all taxpayers with a turnover of more than 1 million riyals to comply with the mandate. I'll get on to the next set of waves shortly. Saudi Arabia deviates from the first two countries that we've spoken about and is quite similar to Jordan in that it requires a clearance model. Invoices are cleared with the Zatka, with the tax office, in a structured format it's basically an XML format that is sent through to the tax office. Once the invoice has been verified and cleared with the tax office, there are certain fields and QR code fields that are returned and that are then included in your legal PDF, which can be sent to end customers. The legal PDF does require that a QR code is included with all of the clearance data from the tax office, as well as an embedded XML. So this is a hybrid format, and in fact, obviously, Saudi has kind of two formats, the one that you report to the tax office and the one you send to your end customer. But this hybrid format is still technically an e-invoice. There is an embedded XML that you can use to automate your AP or AR processes. It is just sent within a PDF document. One of the unique requirements for Saudi, I think it is also the case for Jordan, is that invoices must be in Arabic. They can include another language, but Arabic is an absolute requirement for the invoicing data on the XML and the PDF. I'm just going to pause here very quickly to state Easy has a very unique solution, I believe, in the market for this. We actually provide an AI-powered translation tool. So invoices well, when we integrate with our clients, invoices are sent to us in the native language for that client. We can provide the translation to Arabic to ensure compliance with the Saudi Arabian requirements. And ensure that your invoices are compliant and cleared successfully with the ZATCO. This is unique as far as I'm aware. None of our other e-invoicing competitors offer the same thing. So it is a bit of a unique feature for us and took a lot of effort to build. And I think is a great point to help compliance for our clients. And then lastly, with Saudi Arabia, just to note that the penalties can also be quite extensive, up to 50,000 riyals per instance of non-compliance. So again, as Carmen was mentioning, the penalties can rack up very quickly and create quite an issue for your compliance in that country. So certainly important to ensure that you comply if you are hit by the mandate and the thresholds that are currently in place. On that, the next two phases or two waves of the mandate have been announced. The first is starting, well, the 23rd wave, but the next one is starting on the 1st of March, 2026. That'll be applicable for all taxpayers that have a revenue of over 0.75 million riyals or 750,000 riyals. And the last wave that we are aware of will be from the 1st of June, 2026. And that'll include any taxpayers with an annual revenue of more than 350,000 riyals. I believe that wave 24 might be the last wave that we'll see introduced for quite a while. There are some relaxations allowed for your smaller businesses in most instances and most e-invoicing mandates, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see with Saudi Arabia as well. Just on our solution, as I discussed, we provide basically an end-to-end solution for Saudi Arabia. We receive e-invoice data from our clients. We generate both of the formats required, the first being the integration with the tax office to get the clearance from the tax office, as well as then the final generation. And we do provide a very cool feature, which is also our email routing feature. Basically, as long as the email address is provided in the invoice data that is sent to us via the integration, we can transmit that cleared invoice in the correct format, the PDF with the QR code and the embedded XML, directly to the recipient listed in that email address in one flow. So it definitely makes life a lot easier for the AR teams, certainly. And again, just a reminder about our AI tools, which are very nice differentiator there as well. Then on to a couple of countries where we don't have a lot of information yet, but have announced their intentions to introduce some sort of e-invoicing. The first is Bahrain. We had expected to receive an update from the Bahrain authorities towards the end of 2025. Nothing has been forthcoming yet, and this is indeed a bit of speculation, but I think it is based a bit on sort of insider knowledge. So there are currently some regulatory consultations going on with taxpayers in the country and other stakeholders as well. It is expected that Bahrain will follow the Saudi model, which is, again, a clearance model, potentially with both of those types of formats as well, a structured model, structured format to be sent to the tax office for clearance, and then a different, more hybrid format to be sent to end customers to ease the transition into e-invoicing. I believe we will receive an announcement imminently from the Bahrain authorities in the next month or two on when the e-invoicing mandate will kick in. We are literally just awaiting that announcement and some more technical details, which will be shared as soon as we have them. And the last country we're going to speak about today is Qatar. In a similar way, Qatar was also expected to announce something potentially towards the end of last year or the beginning of this year. So we are waiting with bated breath there as well. As a differentiator from Bahrain, Qatar is considering seemingly a five-corner PEPL model, so very similar to the UAE and Oman. This does seem to be the preference for some of the newer models that are being announced in the region at the moment. They have indicated that it's likely to include all transaction types, so your B2B, B2G, and B2C invoices, and it'll likely to be a phased introduction for that as well, with thresholds of revenue for taxpayers to comply. Just a note, though, that Qatar is one of the countries that does not actually have a VAT system in place yet. So one of the key things that they're waiting for, I suppose, to announce the e-invoicing mandate and to finalize any technical details is actually the launch of their VAT system, which was expected last year and has been seemingly delayed until we'll see what happens this year, I suppose. So that is largely the e-invoicing landscape in the Middle East at the moment, and specifically the GCC at the moment. Oh, I see a poll has just popped up. Before we get to the poll, I also just want to confirm that Easy is compliant with all of the mandates that are currently in place. We have solutions for Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Sorry, let me just get rid of that. We are actively working on our accreditation for Oman and the UAE. Oman, we're obviously waiting for the accreditation process to open. And the UAE, we are actively working with the authorities at the moment to finalize our accreditation. For both of these countries, we are fully compliant with the requirements. So, we believe it will just be a matter of time until those are sorted. And we will certainly be ready well before the 1st of July date for the UAE for companies to sign with their registered ASP. We are also planning to launch our UAE test route in Easy very soon, probably within the next 2 weeks or so, which will allow companies to basically start integrating with us already and start playing around with how the UAE systems work and the processes work to ensure that the transition will be as smooth as possible. Then going on to some questions, I see a few of them have come on, mainly on Oman. We have not been selected as an ASP in Oman yet. Again, the process hasn't yet opened, but they have released the requirements for ASPs in Oman, and we do comply with all of those requirements. We are a PEPL certified access point. We do have a presence in Oman. We comply with all of the insurance requirements and all the other requirements basically that are required in Oman as well. So we are literally just waiting for the process to open, and we will submit our application very shortly. All right, I'm just going to scroll through any other questions to see if anything was unanswered. Please feel free to pop any further questions in now. But it does look like we have answered everything that is here. All right. Great. Well, I think we'll then wrap up. As I said, please feel free to drop any further questions in the questions tab or the chat. We will be able to see those after the session, and we'll respond to those in our follow-up email as well. And apologies again for anyone that struggled with the sound. The recording will be released automatically by our platform after the call. You will receive an email with the recording, and the sound should work perfectly there. So please feel free to have a watch and drop us any questions from here on out. And if you have any compliance needs in any of these countries, please feel free to reach out as well. We're happy to have sessions and discuss those needs to ensure that you are compliant and not incurring those hefty penalties that we see across the region. Thank you very much again for joining. We hope you have a good rest of your day, and we will speak soon. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.